Welcome. This is the Jazz Road Creative Residencies webinar. We have pre-recorded this and it is publicly available through South Art's social media accounts, as well as the Jazz Road website. I'd like to introduce the President and CEO of South Arts, that is Susie Circumer on your left, and the Vice President of Programs is Joy Young, and myself, Sarah Donnelly, will be with you today. I am the Director of Jazz, and I am happy to talk to you about creative residencies. First, more about South Arts. South Arts is a nonprofit organization. It is governed by a board of directors, and it's one of the 6 US-based regional arts organizations. It represents and serves the southern states, and we work in partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts and Southern State Arts Agencies, among other partners. And the work we do primarily involves funding that is tied to our mission. So looking at the slide, South Arts' mission is advancing Southern vitality through the arts. And we do this through grants and fellowships for artists, for organizations, for communities, and we also have programs, conferences, and convenings. I mentioned the states that South Arts works with, and that would be the 9-state area, beginning with Alabama. You can see the states here, but I'll repeat them: Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. Jazz Road reaches beyond these states to serve the national arts community. More about South Arts' strategic goals. The plan refines and refocuses our efforts more directly on Southern artists and arts organizations. We recognize that Southern artists and arts organizations are under-resourced and are working to both attract national resources and attention on the best in our region and help Southern artists live and thrive in the South. The program I am speaking about today is called Jazz Road, and it is a national program, I repeat, but it does address several of our goals, and I will focus on goal number 2, which is connect artists and arts professionals in the South to resources that will increase opportunities for success within and outside the region. On to our agenda. We will talk about Jazz Road briefly, but the purpose of this, again, is to talk about our new program called Creative Residencies. I'll give you an overview. And we will also talk about guidelines and application. There is a broad audience for this webinar. It is primarily for professional jazz artists, but also jazz and arts presenters and promoters, and also other potential partnering organizations. What is Jazz Road? It is an artist-centric touring and residency grants program to spread jazz throughout the country, strengthen work opportunities and compensation for jazz artists, and bolster deeper engagement between jazz musicians, presenters, and communities. It is a national initiative, again, led by South Arts, but in partnership with the 5 other US regional arts organizations. And it is funded by the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation with additional support from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. I mentioned the regional arts organizations earlier, and the reason I would like to identify key colleagues at each regional is because the program partners with each of these so that artists and organizations that are needing support in the states represented by these regions are able to call what we call the Jazz Road Partner Liaisons. So you know about South Arts. Again, I'll repeat, I'm Sarah Donnelly, and you can contact me when you are from the Southern states and have questions about Jazz Road. But you should also know about Arts Midwest, Katie Ortman, Mid-America Arts Alliance, Christine Bile, Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation, Jess Porter, New England Foundation for the Arts, Daniela Jacobson, and the Western Arts Alliance with West staff, and that is Tim Wilson. Jazz Road does have a website. It is here. And in that website, you will see 5 discrete sections related to Jazz Road tours, Jazz Road creative residencies, a call for presenters, a list of the funded artists and tours that we have already supported through Jazz Road Tours, and a growing additional resources page to help artists and presenters learn more about resources in the jazz field. Here's a picture of the beginning page for Jazz Road in the website. As you can see in navigating on the upper left side, you have the home page for South Arts, and you can get to Jazz Road a number of ways. I recommend going to Artist Grants and Fellowships and Jazz Road, and then as you scroll through Jazz Road, you will come across creative residencies. This program launched recently on April 26th, and let me tell you a bit about its purpose. Primarily, we want to remove the financial barriers that keep mid-career professional jazz artists from investing deeply in their creative practice, attending to their artistic and professional growth, and experimenting across a wide range of artistic and community engagement possibilities throughout the US. But a word about some context in developing this program. Initially, there was no pandemic as this program was planned. And in that regard, without a pandemic, we were able to focus so much on what artists most want as they advance in their careers. They want more opportunities and resources to explore creative development and to take their careers to the next level. They know that they need focused time. They want to work with collaborators. They perhaps want to travel, or they want to dig deep into intensive community work. And all of this was quite possible prior to a pandemic. With the pandemic, since we have been in it and artists are now emerging from it, it has been a great opportunity for creative incubation in looking at the silver lining of not being able to perform publicly. Artists have had much time to think about how they would like to move their work into next directions and what is most meaningful for them as they move in their careers. So we would like these residencies that we fund to leverage what has been learned during this period. We also know that artists need high flexibility and that residencies must serve many purposes. So we have created this program now in response to how artists have recently expressed their need to work and evolve out of this period. We've distilled the program down to this key goal, again, to provide financial support for mid-career jazz artists from across the US in self-defined residency activities that advance their artistry, creative exploration, community engagement work, and life work in jazz. Here is our program timeline. I mentioned that applications did open recently on April 26th. We have a deadline of July 12th, and we have extended this already. Initially, we had posted July 1 as a deadline. We have just announced that our extended deadline is July 12th. We will notify grantees and applicants of their status later in September, and this all is toward a grant period that can begin mid-October through June 30th of 2022. The grant amount is of large range. Individual artists will directly be supported for the coverage of their eligible residency expenses, and grants can range between $5,000 to $40,000. They are also non-matching. So diving into eligibility, individual artists are able to apply to this program. And what makes an artist eligible is that The artist is a professional artist in the middle of a career and can be working solo or working with other types of collectives and ensembles. This is a mid-career professional jazz artist able to show a noteworthy record of work, experience, and accomplishments in the jazz field. And all applicants must be US citizens or permanent residents who are based in the US or its territories. A sidebar that projects can include non-US citizens, but grant support must go directly to US citizens or permanent residents. An additional note is that current grantees can apply, but we do want to aim to fund a large and diverse pool of artists throughout the US. Despite much information in the guidelines, one of the first questions I will always get is, what is jazz? What I'd like you to know is that we give you an opportunity to define several things for yourselves. That would certainly be how you define jazz, and also what kinds of jazz do we fund. We say that we fund everything, and it is up to you to define jazz as you would like to. I also get the question, what is mid-career and what is professional? Professional generally means that an artist is working in this music and actually spending a full-time dedication to working as a musician. I'd like you to know that that does not mean that an artist must be currently operating as a paid musician as an application is submitted. What is defined as a high level of accomplishment is also for you to define for yourselves. Whether that is a history of recordings, certain awards, certain prestigious engagements, et cetera, those qualities are for you to define. Again, artists are the applicants, and so they get to propose their own unique residency. This means they come up with the project design, goals and desired outcomes, structure, budget, location, scale, etc. We offer so much flexibility and are very interested in your original ideas. More components. It's important for you to think about the exceptional nature of a residency. This experience should be a catalyst for new creative directions and career advancement. This should be a departure from what has been a prior artistic practice norm. This is also a time for focused artistic development and immersive engagement and strategies to connect within community. And finally, a residency provides resources for time, inspiration, and efforts that often are undercompensated and unsustainable. With that lens, you are able to move forward and consider a residency in 3 areas, in 3 ways. An artist may focus entirely on creative development and artistry. An artist may focus entirely on digging into community work and connecting their artistic experience and music with specific facets of community. And finally, developing a residency that combines both creativity and community engagement is a very strong possibility. So next we are talking about parameters. Residencies must occur between October 15th of this year and June 30th of 2022. Residencies are required to be 1 to 3 weeks in duration. And it's important to note that these days can be contiguous, but also non-contiguous. And these weeks of time may be located anywhere in the US. Often, a traditional residency involves an artist leaving a home area, but we'd like you to know that these residencies can take place far away from home, and they may require travel and lodging, or they may take place very close to home, including in an artist's home, and they will not require either of these, travel or lodging. Residencies can range from artists working in isolation or artists working with others, and artists can work independently with or without partner organizations. If artistic collaboration is included, artists can represent all disciplines. Here are some additional parameters. Again, artists are the applicants and they are central to the residency plan. Partnering organizations are not required. But if a partner is included, it's possible that a partner has been informed about this program and has initiated project ideas and approached an artist to develop an application. And that is why it is important that we have potential partnering organizations viewing this webinar and learning more about the program. In fact, though artists drive an application and are the official applicants, we are very aware that partnering organizations can approach artists and join and collectively create an application together. Other parameters, partnering organizations can be very conventional, such as performing arts centers, and they can also be very alternative, and they can also be arts related, and they can also be non-arts related. Later in the guidelines, you will see a list of all different types of what residency partners could be. And partners, again, hold several roles. They can be financial or non-financial. They can contribute to budget expenses, or they may in fact have budget expenses that are included in a shared budget with the artist. They can be co-project designers, producers, presenters, commissioners, interested in developing new work by the artist and interested in presenting the artist in their venues and communities. They can actually be hosts, which provide the artists with fees and lodging and travel and hospitality and production space or other project expenses while work and community engagement is in process. And again, as arts and or non-arts outlets, they may be available to assist, promote, or provide the artist with community access to enable focused engagement and outreach. I'd like you to know that a partnering organization can be a primary partner in up to 2 applications. Getting to the meat of what a residency could actually be, there is also a long list of examples of residencies. And again, we don't want to be overly prescriptive. We want you to come up with your own ideas, but we also want you to see how possible so many different ideas can be. But basically, please know that you can apply to create and compose, revisit, rehearse existing and or new music. You can record new work. That means working with sound engineers, video engineers. That means mixing and mastering. You can also video document the entire residency experience. You can create opportunities to connect with communities that impact the artist's creativity and foster new points of entry for artist and community cultural and social exchange. And please know that commercial entities are also able to participate. Jazz clubs are so central to our jazz world, and this is an opportunity for artists to produce an extended engagement residency at a commercial and or nonprofit club and loft to showcase new work and artistic collaborations. And of course, other combinations of activities are possible that are not listed. Of course, all of these applications do need to be reviewed. They are reviewed by panels composed of specialists in the jazz field who will review applications and make recommendations for support. Panels will always reflect diverse racial, ethnic, gender, and geographic representation, as well as a range in jazz aesthetic points of view and experience. They will be evaluating toward 4 review criteria. Each of these criteria are weighted at 25%. Artistic excellence, project narrative, residency outcomes, and capacity. I will come back to further describe each of these criteria and how they connect to opportunities to describe in the actual application form. But let's look for a minute at what the application form does require. You will be applying for this program through a portal, and you will learn more about that later. Once you are in, you will see that there are sections for all of the following. Obviously, you will be listing your information. You can also provide key information about collaborators, partners, and we require biographies of the key artist applicant, but also personnel that are involved as well as collaborators. And this does not mean submitting biographies that are each 5 pages, but submitting enough content so that a panel can have an idea of where an artist or collaborators have achieved milestones in their careers. We also would like to look at your website and other social media links. Here again is where the 4 criteria are specifically addressed through a residency summary, and we will come back to that. And then finally, we do need signed letters of intent. There is a residency project budget, and there are 3 work samples to be submitted through video and audio links. So what I'd like to do is focus on the residency summary as well as the last 3 bullets. The residency summary is where you will be doing most of your writing. And to begin with, artistic excellence is actually very clear through the work samples that you submit, as well as, again, information that you provide in your biographies. I've already mentioned that your biography should really make a case for where you are as an established artist with a record of work in excellence. I recommend submitting 3 contrasting work samples, and work samples that are recent. Work samples that show your artistry above all, and work samples that can give a panel an idea of what type of material or ensemble would be involved in this residency. Let's look at the 3 remaining criteria. The project narrative is the section of the application that will require the most reflection and writing. The narrative will provide the panel with a clear description of the residency goals, participants, activities, location, planning, and timeline. If partnerships are included, the roles and parameters should be clearly described. This section also asks how the applicant addresses Jazz Road equity priorities. We seek an applicant pool and pool of grantees that best reflect the jazz field in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, and geographic location. The program firmly acknowledges that jazz is based in the African American experience, and also acknowledges that not nearly enough women are supported while avidly present on the scene. Jazz Road also aims to award artists and residencies in each of the 6 regions, including rural and remote areas. Moving to residency outcomes, this will be a section where you clearly describe what your project outcomes would be and how they will be achieved. This would include descriptions of the level of artistic and creative growth that you've experienced, the kinds of career-defining outcomes that are expected. Also, what creative and professional outcomes are to be achieved through community engagement when applicable. The last section is capacity, and that will be a narrative that exhibits a project management capacity, logistical coordination, solid budget planning, and plans to evaluate your residency. A word about the letters of intent and agreement. These are only required for essential primary contributors to this project. We do not want artists to feel encumbered with the amount of time and persistence necessary to receive letters of intent. There is no benefit to submitting many letters of intent. These are simply a clear agreement that primary partners have committed to this project with you. We'd also like you to know that there is a difference here between partnering organizations that are key as hosts or producers. Meanwhile, if an artist is simply renting a studio, there is no need to have a letter of agreement for that arrangement. Of course, there is a residency project budget. This will include eligible expenses that are to be artists' expenses, as well as partner expenses and/or contributions. This generally will be salaries and artist fees for required time toward creative development, rehearsals, production, performances. But there are so many types of expenses that can be supported. You will see a long list of eligible expenses. Of course, hotel, travel, meals are included, studio, space and equipment rentals, production expenses, sound and video engineering, community engagement expenses such as ground travel and fees and supplies, marketing, participant fees. And finally, we also allow for exceptional expenses connected to COVID-19 safety protocols as necessary. We also are responsive to artists that require childcare or elder care. More about grant support. Again, Jazz Road Creative Residencies grants will range between $5,000 to $40,000. Grants are awarded directly to artists to cover eligible residency expenses. Partnering organizations may be financial or non-financial partners, and they may provide coverage for various expenses and/or in-kind services as applicable or not at all. Should the project budget include eligible expenses that the applicant and partner will jointly incur, they may be included in the grant amount request. The grant amount is not required to be matched. If matching revenues transpire for the project, they are not required to be listed in the project budget template. Grants will be awarded for the total amount requested, provided that all expenses listed are eligible and the request is within $5,000 to $40,000. As the grant is awarded directly to the artist, it is up to the artist and the partner organization that may be sharing costs to negotiate their own payment arrangements. Once you have reviewed all program guidelines, it is time to actually apply, and you will see this section. This is to lead you to log in to GoSmart, which is the portal that we use. Take your time walking through GoSmart. Obvious tips are to make sure that you are saving all of your content for each page. When narrative is involved, it is recommended that you create your content separate from the portal. South Arts is always available to help you access the portal should you have any problems logging in or any other trouble navigating the application form. And with that, we have come to the end of this webinar. Thank you very much. I am always available to take your questions. Please contact me at sdonnelly@southarts.org. We look forward to receiving your application.